John Tonje might just be a star. Is this the best, most efficient combination of wing players in Tonje and Blackwell that the Badgers have had? Since who even knows? Let's talk about it. Wisconsin is 7-0 on the year. On Wisconsin. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fam? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Harris, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets if you win over at FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. We're talking basketball. Badgers 7-0. How good is this wing combination with Tonje and Blackwell? Justin, we gotta get excited.
This is awesome.
This is a good team.
Good day for me. Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line.
I don't even loop it anymore. I'm becoming a pro at this.
Listen, I'm so proud of you.
This Badger team is good. 7-0. They go down to the Greenbrier. They win it. I'm sorry that we get started a few minutes late, much like the Greenbrier. We had some technical difficulties pulling it off to start on time. But like, this team is good. And you're looking at John Blackwell. You're looking at Tonje, and then you don't even remember anymore that the Badgers lost one of the quote-unquote higher-profile guys in the transfer portal, and AJ Storr from the wing.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, AJ Storr averaging 9 points a game and 2 rebounds a game this year?
Tonje has been significantly better than Storr ever was last year. He's a better defender. He's a far, far more efficient player, and he rarely takes a bad shot. He's the old school NBA guy or old school gym guy who just like, and he can dunk, but like he's got an old man's game. Like the way he plays at his pace. He tends to get guys into uncomfortable positions defensively, which is why it leads to a lot of free throws, because he doesn't really shoot when you expect him to shoot, and he's going at his pace. So you tend to get out of position, and he ends up just getting you into spots you don't want to be. It leads to a lot of easy scores, or to the line where he's pretty much automatic. Blackwell is very similar in that regard. Like Blackwell, for a guy who really kind of lacks explosiveness vertically, is really strong and adept at getting he gets past guys' hips on the drive consistently. And when he does, he's so strong it doesn't matter. Like, it's done at that point. There's very few guards that are going to be able to physically deal with him. And I also love he is an elite guard at needling the other team's players. He is really good at getting them to react to him.
Yeah, he's super chippy, which I love. He brings an edge. You need an edge to win in the Big Ten. And at Division I basketball, you need a guy who is not going to back down from opposing perimeter guys, who draws fouls. And by the way, of course, other teams are getting chippy with him. He gets 3-4 fouls every game on perimeter defenders. That's going to piss you off because he gets into their body. He draws fouls. He pump fakes. To your point, both of these guys play with incredible pace. Incredible pace. They understand their games perfectly. They're very, very seldomly in a rush. Like they very, very seldomly take bad shots. You know where they're going. Even when they have a turnover or they miss a shot, you can understand what they're trying to do offensively. They play within the offense and they play within themselves. And they can both pass the ball, right? They can both pass the ball, so you can't collapse on them. Those guys are so hard to defend because you can't just send two and expect them to throw up a turnover or a bad shot.
We talked about this, or I texted you this in the first half, that the Pitt was using the James Madison defensive structure against us. Like they were rushing us and trying to get us flustered on the perimeter a little bit. This team adjusted to that very well. They kept their composure. And Blackwell, I think we had concerns about his handle and stuff like that. He's actually looked pretty good. And I think his strength really is an asset to him. And that in being able to keep quicker guys off of him. He's just so physical that they really can't get into him enough. And he's big enough that the quickness is negated by the fact that he can kind of step past them. Like there's just not many. We'll see what happens when he gets against somebody who's a really athletic guard later in the season. But as of right now, he really doesn't seem to be too, flustered at all by having somebody who's quicker than him on him trying to get into him.
Yeah, I would say this too. We're going to get into kind of player of the game, rotations. I think player of the game is going to be Tonje, but we'll talk about some other players of the game that stepped up. But I think this is also really impressive with this team. This is, Pitt goes up 20-9, 25-12, I think is in this game. Much like the Arizona game, this Wisconsin team can punch back. Like, because of the way they can shoot the ball, because of the way they can score, this is a team, like, listen, many iterations of the last 20 years of Badgers basketball, you get down 20 points, 15 points, 10 points, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, this thing's over. This Badgers team, because of the way they can shoot the ball and score in a flurry, like, they're not going to be out of too many games, Justin. And they started the first half 0-10, and then in this from 3, 0-10 from 3, and then the second half, you start to see them break through because this team is too good of a shooting team.
Yep.
So quite frankly, to go cold the entire game, even in a crazy, weird environment like the Greenbrier.
Yeah, and you had guys who didn't play well in this game. Like Crowell was a solid rebounding, but he wasn't good offensively. Klesmit had a rough offensively, and it didn't really matter because you have two guys that can carry your team efficiency, and they did again. Like they had Winter play pretty well in this game offensively, and then you had those two. And they accounted for it. We went from 30. We shot 30-something, low 30s in the first half. Mm-hmm. We ended up almost 50% from the field by the time all was said and done, because Tonje and Blackwell were borderline 50% shooting, and then you had Winter who was 5 of 7, and obviously then Kamari McGee. I mean,
yeah,
geez, did he miss in this tournament? Like. He was 4 of 5 today, and I think it wasn't like 5 of 5 in one of the other games.
He's been really good for 2 games here, and a bunch of people in chat giving McGee love. Michael Sigleski. I love some Kamari.
He's got some ups, little man.
Mm-hmm.
I say that really he's probably borderline as tall or close to as tall as I am.
Yeah, two great finishes at the rim, and what a nice weapon coming off the bench. Like I'm now at the point where I look forward to about that 16-minute mark when Kamari McGee comes in, because he just kind of changes the tempo up a little bit. Also. Defensively, he is so good. He is the premium perimeter defender on this team right now. You see him going over screens and really shutting down some of that isolation. He's been really, really good this year. I want to ask you about this, Justin. This is basically a 7-man rotation today. It was the 5 starters, McGee and Janicki. Amos played about 5 minutes. Gilmore didn't. Like, it was basically a 7-man rotation, and you had Blackwell played 37 minutes. Tonje played 38 minutes. Interesting, right? Do you think it's a 7-man rotation going forward?
I think they wanted this win, and I think it was one of those where in the moment we want to win this game, and it's a good opportunity to galvanize this team being down in a game and having an opportunity to kind of prove yourself. Like this is a game where you learn about yourself as a team, where you got down big and you brought yourself back and won this game. That's a confidence builder overall for the team for the year. Now, they can't play this way all season long. You're going to have to go to your bench, and you may have some games that you lose because of it. So be it. Like, you don't have to go undefeated, but you're going to have to let these starters get some minutes to rest, because listen, the end of the season, and we saw it last year, teams get gassed. You get towards the second half of the season, if guys are playing heavy minutes, and one of the perks of this team is if they can play with this level of efficiency, it's going to make for a lot of easy games. Like, you're going to be able to beat teams by double digits handily, because you can't play with teams that are this efficient offensively from the free throw line and everything else. They're going to get up on you double, and they're going to coast, because you can't get them to go to the line and give you some easy possessions and stuff like that. And Wisconsin hasn't had that in a really long time. But because of that, you'll hopefully have some games where you can rest these guys quite a bit.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Tonje's not going to be able to play 38 minutes every game. I will say this, for the amount of time he plays, again, you go back to that efficiency. A lot of guys playing 38 minutes they're going to not shoot well. They're going to turn the ball over. He plays at a remarkably high level of consistency for the amount of minutes he plays. All right, we're going to take a quick second for our friends of the show. We're going to come back, and I asked Justin this. I'm curious in the chat. Is this and we're early, we're 7 games in, but in the chat, is this the most efficient combo of wing scores in Blackwell and Tonje we've had since ... I don't even know. Let me know in the chat. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick break for our great friends of the show over at FanDuel. Thank goodness for Badgers basketball this weekend because my Niners got splatted by the Packers. That wasn't fun. Obviously, we know what happened in the Nebraska-Wisconsin game. That wasn't fun. I didn't bet on either of those, but listen, it was a rough sports weekend. If you bet on those, especially if you're a Packers fan, you probably did well. You probably did it over at FanDuel. $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed if you win over at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com is incredible. They are fast, easy, simple. The best place for all your parlays, teas, your future spreads over at FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, the official sportsbook of the NFL, a safe and easy way to spice up your sports weekend. Please do it responsibly as always. Justin, let's jump back into this. Let's see who I didn't even get a chance to look at the chat on this. Any other combos coming up in terms of Will Hannah says best ever at this point concerning Tonje and Blackwell?
I can't remember in my time alive. I think maybe if you go back, you could, I guess, make the argument for like Tracy Webster and what's his name?
You're going in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, that's 94 with why can't I think of his name right now? The best Badger ever.
Michael Finley?
Michael Finley, yes. Webster and Finley would probably be the closest. And I don't think Webster was on the level of Blackwell. So,
but Finley was a first round pick. So maybe Finley's higher, Webster's lower, the other two are in the middle.
And I don't know if they're necessarily were as efficient. They're probably better players, but it's been a long time since we've had two guys that are capable of going off for 30 in a backcourt. They're with this efficiency. Like we've had guys that are chuckers before that go out there and it's just an inefficient 30 points. These two guys can do it, and they can do it because they also get to the line at a high level and they also shoot at a high level. Like Tonje was 11 of 19. He's 1 of 5 from 3. He didn't need threes to rack up points in this game. When you can be over 50% and then you go to the line and you're going to shoot 80+% every game, it just makes it so easy to separate from teams.
Yeah, and the great thing with Tonje, and you mentioned it, he didn't kill from the three-point line today, but the three-point line still sets up so much of what he has to do because people have to close out on him a certain way. And then he just uses his physicality to get around them. Mitchell Lee says Koenig and Decker. Yeah, Decker's more of a forward. I'm thinking more of like a guard combo type, but I can see it. They weren't Koenig wasn't as efficient as these guys.
Yeah.
Better playmaker.
He wasn't even a better three-point shooter. Like Blackwell was a better three-point shooter. He was you can make the argument with those two that they were better all-around players, but from an efficiency standpoint, Tonje and Blackwell are more efficient.
How about this take? Kefo says Tonje better than Johnny Davis.
I think if he continues this, it's going to be hard to say he's not. That doesn't mean it will translate to him being an NBA player. Because I think he's kind of a weird tweener, he's one of those guys that's going to rack up huge numbers in here, but he's just not the type of athlete that's going to play in the NBA. Like maybe I would get drafted, but I don't know if he would stay.
I would say no on Tonje being better than Johnny Davis. A little bit of probably recency bias here. We've seen 7 games of Tonje. Davis was incredible.
A really good defender and rebounder.
Keep in mind, Davis was a guy guarding guys like Jaden Ivey that year. He was taking that assignment. Keep in mind, not to turn this into an entire Davis thing, he did not have this level of help around him either. He did not have a Blackwell next to him to take some of that pressure off. But listen, even the fact that we're discussing if Tonje is better than Johnny Davis, like that, what a home run in the transfer portal. Justin, I wanted to throw this up to you because I think you're a perfect guy to have on the show because you have been one of the guys that's a little more critical of Greg Gard, right? I think it's a fair take. One of the comments in here was time to give Greg Gard some of his flowers, ? Justin.
Well, first, I'm going to hit JB's comment here, but I will talk about Gard. He said, Justin, stop invoking the name of Michael Finley. Tonje is not on the level. Okay, you need some perspective on this. We're talking about efficiency. We're not talking about him being that level of player. The only person in Badger history that has any right to be put into the same conversation as that guy is Devin Harris. And that's because Devin Harris was a 5-time All-Star or something like that at the NBA, was a top 5 pick. Like Finley is number 1 with a bullet for Wisconsin for best player in Wisconsin history. Like he just is. Like he was such an athletic freak. So, Yeah. Like Tonje, though, from an efficiency standpoint, it's really hard to argue the numbers. The guy's shooting what? It's got to be borderline 90% from the line. Probably is
I think it's like
over
4%
90%.
Yeah.
And he's also shooting, he's got to be close to 50% from field goal. So he might even be over that right now on the season. I'd have to take a look. But he just doesn't have negative plays. Now, that doesn't mean he won't struggle if they get against a hyper-athletic guy on him who is a good player, like is a skilled player. I could see him struggling with that. But as of right now, he's maybe going to run into that guy once or twice the entire season. Like there's just not that many guys that are going to he's going to struggle with. He's too crafty. Same thing with Blackwell, though. Like they're going to run into maybe one or two guys this season that really can handle them, but it's not going to be a common thing.
Well, but that's the part where you yo-yo off of it, right?
Yeah.
And I do want to ping into this thing where Jake is also saying, Justin, how many weeks till you're back in fire guard mode? That's not a shot at you. It's just more directed at there was questions about guard coming into the year. But I want to hit this one take before we get to that. The point is you're not going to play a lot of teams defensively that can match up with both John, Tonje, and Blackwell at the same time. And that's
the problem. Like it's really hard to stop two guys that are like that because most teams don't even have one.
Exactly. And that's surrounded by shooters and a center that can pass the ball. Like it just makes it difficult to center your defense on one of those two guys. All right, I'll kick it over to you on this one.
Let's do the guard thing. Let's get back on guard though.
Well, this is it. How many weeks until Justin's back in fire guard mode?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've said all along he's got as much rope as the season will give him. Like I will go back. I will be critical of him if the team fades like it did last year again. If they fall off a cliff, I'm going to look at it and say, here we go again, because that's the way it's been the last couple seasons. If he can maintain it, then I will absolutely give him his flowers the rest of the season if they can continue to play at a high level. I think this team is already a little bit different than last year's team when you take a look at it, because they've consistently been 80-plus points, but it's been an efficient time. It's not that the game is just running up or that they're shooting. Like, I watch this team, they're not shooting at an incredible level that is carrying them to that. It's just we're right around 50%. It's not a lot of wasted possessions. You have two guys that are capable of consistently playing at this level in Blackwell and Tonje, who are probably going to consistently be around 50% shooting. And then you have a bunch of other guys who don't have to be ultra efficient. They just need to be productive. And that makes it very difficult for them not to put up close to that point total. And it is a better offense. Like the ball movement, Ryan and I were talking before we came in, one of the better passing. This is the best passing team we may have had since 2015. Like they do an excellent job of moving the ball. I cannot remember a team since those two teams that was as good at breaking the when teams go into zone. Like we've struggled with that when teams change up on us on defense. This team doesn't skip a beat. When they do it, the ball movement keeps moving until they find the open guy.
Yeah, and we've struggled with zones because of our lineups, right? You can't have Tyler Wall and Stephen Crowell together against the zone because those guys don't create any spacing and the zone just compacts even more. Yeah. Now you got five guys who can shoot to some degree. You got five guys who can pass to some degree. McGee comes off the bench. He gives you all that as well. Like, it's just a really hard team to zone against, and that makes it really hard if you can't match up on the perimeter with those guys that we just talked about. I do want to point out that this is not a perfect win. Like, the second half, the defense started to fall apart. There's some shots. So here's where this team needs to find some balance at times. There was two possessions in this game in transition. Everyone mentions the Janicki one. Janicki 3-on-1. You have Blackwell, and I think you have maybe Tonje, and you pull it for three. Yeah. Like, I love the confidence, little young man. I love the confidence. Bro, you got to get a layup if it's 3-on-1. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
And there was another one. We had a 4-on-5, right? Because one of their guys early in the game went down with an injury, and we came back and right away settled. Klesmit shot up a three. Listen, if it's Hunt a shot at the rim if it's 4-on-5. Hunt a shot at the rim if it's 3-on-1. There are some moments where this team still has to. Yeah. Shot selection gets a little wonky for little periods of time.
Yeah. Well, and even early in this game, there's going to be times where it's going to bite you if you miss gimmies. And there were a lot of easy shots early in this game that they bricked, and you let a team run out. They're going to play better scoring teams than Pitt. And there's going to be teams that have guys that are legitimately capable of hunting their shot and getting exactly where they want on the court. That's going to be a problem for this team. And we'll see what happens. when either of these two guys get in foul trouble, Wisconsin, it's going to change things a little bit because they're playing heavy minutes right now. You get Tonje and Blackwell potentially off the floor a little bit. That's where teams could feast on them a little bit because I don't know how well we're going to score if at least one of those guys isn't on the court.
Yeah, and to your point, Blackwell played 37 minutes. Tonje played 38 tonight. That's where that depth has to play a little bit more. Gilmore barely played today. The key is Xavier Amos. Amos has to be a guy who gives you more than 5 minutes a game. He has to be. You brought him in to be more than that. He gives you something that this team doesn't have, which is an athletic forward with length and size. He has to, between the coaches and him, he has to find a way to get him into that 10 to 15-minute range because his team gets a lot more dangerous. If you have an interior scorer that's bouncy, like then you can go small with him. You can shoot more with him. It gives on nights when Crowell isn't having a great day, he didn't have a great day scoring today. It gives you another option in the front court. Like Ames is a big key to this team. I think, Justin, if this team is going to hit its ceiling.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think with him, it's just the mental aspect of it. He just needs to learn when it's the right moment to make certain plays. And I'm hoping he'll get there. There is some talent there, but he's a guy who's got to learn within the flow of the game what's a good shot, what's a good situation. And I think that's probably part of why he's not playing a ton. I think he's got a little bit of it where guard is afraid of what he's going to do in a game like this, where you're fighting to get back into it. And he's afraid that he's going to start jacking up ill-advised 3-point shots or forcing shots in inopportune situations. And it's like, I get it. Like you don't want to empty possession. You have guys you trust to go out there and hunt a good shot for the most part. Like, I mean, if you put it out there, Tonje versus Ames, and looking at those two guys, if you're replacing one with the other, you're like, man, that's not a great trade-off in a game. Like you need somebody to come in and not be a negative.
Yeah. It'd be more Ames for like Crowell or Winter, although Winter had a good game today. Stelgani says guard is allowing these players to gain confidence. We're going to take one more quick break, get into the what has become an annual tradition on Locked On Badgers, where I defend Stephen Crowell for something. That's coming up next. Listen, Badgers 7-0. Let us know how you feel in the comments. Let us know what you think the ceiling of this team is. Justin, we have a comment in here from, I lost it, but they said, we are Frank Kaminsky away from being an Elite 8 team. If this had team out of Frank Kaminsky, this is a national championship caliber team. Like,
you have two scorers like Blackwell and Tonje on there with their efficiency, and Kaminsky to be able to space out on the 3-point line. Yeah, you would be number one. I'll put this out there. Frank Kaminsky would just eat this level of college basketball alive on the interior. There are no
you would
stud interior guys anymore in college basketball.
Realist. We'll answer this next. Hap or Kaminsky for this team? We'll answer that one next on Locked On Badgers. But first, take a quick break. Then we'll get into all your comments. And again, just say thank you for being here as part of the show as always. But a quick break for our friends of the show over at Gametime. Gametime is your number one source for all of your ticketing needs. Again, when Justin, Rajiv, and I go to Badger games, like I always look in Gametime to try to find the best tickets. Again, next year we're going to go to one that we think we're going to win. We're not going to maybe go to, I don't even know what's our best home game next year. What is our best home game next year? I don't even know.
Oh man, I don't. Some of them, they did announce them, but I'm not sure. I think it's probably Iowa.
Do we get Ohio State at home?
We get Iowa at home.
We go to Oregon. We go to Bama. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, we're gonna go to another game next year. We'll probably use Gametime because it is the best place to get your tickets. Cheap, fast, last-minute deals, flash sales, incredible inventory to any type of event you want. Get tickets to do more in life. Go to have more fun in life. Get those tickets over at Gametime. Snag the tickets without the stress at Gametime. Right now, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account. Reading code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off over at Gametime. All right, let's jump back into this. Finish up this. We'll get some comments. Justin, if you see any that you're there or any comments that you want to throw in there, please do so. Here's the thing with Crowell. So I do want to hit on Crowell. We got a bunch of comments from it. I starred some of them up here. Let's see some of the Crowell killed me. Brian's can't wait for Ryan to come on and tell me how good Crowell is. That's from Michael Fidelski for missing all the layups. Yada, yada, yada. Crowell should not play. Like, here's the thing. Crowell still had 9 rebounds and 3 assists. Now, this was not a great Crowell game. This is what I always say.
He absolutely has to play. There's no doubt about that.
You have to play him because who else is going to rebound? You're not going to play Nolan Winter for 40 minutes, right? So here's what I always say about Steven Crowell. He's not perfect. He's going to – Mama said there'd be games like this. Like, there's going to be games he misses layups. Like, this is the Steven Crowell experience. I don't know why people keep being surprised by it.
I think people are pushing back when you say he's good. And
he is good. He's a good starting center. Good is not great. Good is not elite. Again, like, okay, let's broaden out. He's an average to good starting center. He's not a bad player.
Yeah.
That's all.
He's not bad. No, I will absolutely push back on that if anybody says that he's bad. We've seen what bad centers look like. We've seen centers that don't offer any defensive ability, are also awful from the free throw line, and can't even, like, they don't look like they can walk on the basketball court half the time. We've had guys on the Wisconsin's roster before that are like, this guy should not even be on a college roster. Like, that is not Steven Crowell.
Yeah, he's fine. But in games like this, what do you think of Nolan Winter today? I thought Winter played better in the first half than Crowell. I thought this was a good step for Winter.
He's gaining confidence, and it's something that he needs to continue if he's ever to hit the ceiling that Rajiv has put on him.
The Dirk Nowitzki.
Dirk Winter.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Keppel says, I'll start in the movie White Men Can't Jump. Stop it. You guys stop it out there. You're killing me with this stuff. Let me see more comments here. Angelo Cortez says Winter needs more minutes. You're
going to take your lumps with him. He's still developing. Like, I don't know how heavy you can go on Winter. He's playing enough at this point. I don't have any issue with the amount that he's playing right now. I don't want to lean on him too heavily because there's going to be a part of this season where he's probably going to have to slide to the 5. And he's a young player yet.
For me, I think one of the best lineups for this team, if we want to get Winter more minutes, against more athletic teams, there's a play in this game where Crowell got stuck on the perimeter, gave up an end one. Crowell on the perimeter defending more athletic bigs isn't great. Mm-hmm. This could be a spot where Winter becomes that guy against a little more athletic front court. He's the 5. And then you have Tonje, Blackwell, Klesman, and McGee, right? So you can go small with Winter at the 5. I think that might be a really interesting lineup that we haven't seen. We haven't seen a ton of. We've seen him go small with Gilmore. I would like to see him go small with Winter more at the 5 against quicker teams. I think that would be interesting. And Noda Whale said, Winter said himself he's not trying to play bully ball. There's not a ton of bully ball centers left in college basketball, though. A lot of guys just want to pace out and shoot threes.
I'd agree with that. Most of the guys that are now bully ball type guys are like 6'9" power forwards that their game doesn't really fit the NBA. They're not super explosive, but they're very physical. We don't have a lot of 6'10", 6'11" guys in college basketball anymore that are back to the basket or even play that way at all.
SDN40 says that you block a wrench, you can block a ball. Yeah. Steven Watson, Crowell, and Winter need more weight room time. Listen, Crowell's had a lot of weight room time. Yeah. Winter could use more. Like, Crowell is.
Are we sure he's not just sitting down, like eating a sandwich or something when he's in there?
He is who he is, which is a solid Big Ten center. Like, it is what it is. Robert McLaughlin said, thought Free Take was going to play some more so far. I did too.
He absolutely would not be playing in this game with the way the game played out. But yeah, I think everyone.
Yeah. How do you read that? Because we all thought he had a role on this team. I think Greg Gard actually thought he did too initially, for the record.
We'll see how it plays out. I think it's early. I think what's happening is the guard rotation overall is playing really well. It's hard to take anyone off the court when everyone's playing well. Now, what I will say, and this has been one of the criticisms of him his entire time as Badger coach, when you get up big on a team, sprinkle those guys in for a couple minutes. Like, there's no reason we can't. Like, we've had games where we've gotten up 15 that you couldn't put Free Tag in there for 2 minutes. Like, let him get out there. He's not going to get better. You get better in practice, yes, but you need to be comfortable in playing in games, and guys react completely different when they don't play on the court at all and get into a real game. The energy is just completely different.
Greg Linscomb, I'm so thankful for guys that can shoot free throws. 100%
no
agree.
kidding.
See, this is what I'm talking about, GT Sturdy, and I love you, man, but who is more frustrating, Crowell or the football team? We just got our butts kicked by Nebraska.
It's absolutely the football team. That's not even a conversation.
Like, yeah, what are we doing here? Crowell is easily less frustrating than this football team right now. It's not even close.
It's hard to argue that when the basketball team is 7-0.
Yeah, he's a starting center on a basketball team that's 7-0. Yeah, Kedrick, my dude. If your takeaway after watching that banger of a basketball game is Crowell isn't good, you're just simply no fun. You're a no fun at a party type of guy. If that's your takeaway, I love Kedrick.
That's fair.
Justin, let's finish on this, man. Unless there's anything else you want to jump onto, but what's the ceiling for this team, do you think now? Now we've seen 7 games, and we've seen 7 games against some pretty decent teams. Pitt is good. Arizona's good. What do you think the ceiling is here?
I hate doing this because last year, like, we thought they were like a top 10-ish team.
That's why I'm making you do
off a cliff. Legitimately, there's very few teams in college basketball, I think, this year that have the front courts that are capable of being, and that's March. Like, the teams that have front courts are the teams that win or have extremely high quality guard play. You have to have both, but I'm saying the differentiator between the teams that have guards, it's the teams that actually have some front court players that can play. Wisconsin is going to have to be ultra efficient against those teams. So I would say right now, I'd say top 15-ish. I think there's a chance that they can be better than that, but we need to see them continue to play at this level. And if they keep doing this, like, there's a chance they can be a top 10, top 5 kind of team. Like, I need to see what the rest of college basketball is doing, but the efficiency is always going to play. Like, if they can be this efficient, everyone's going to struggle. Like, we talk about 2014 and 15. Why were those teams so good? They were the most efficient teams that college basketball ever saw in an offensive team. So that's what puts you up at the top of this, and that gives them an opportunity. I need to see what these two guys are going to do when they get against the elite athletes, because they're like, you look at a team like Duke or UConn, those are completely different ball games of playing against it. And as good as Arizona is, they'd probably truck them. Duke's going to have some growing pains.
UConn and Duke.
We saw Duke against Kentucky, and you can see the young guys are super talented. But like watching, who's the one everyone wants, the Flag,
Cooper. Yeah,
Cooper Flag has all the physical tools in the world. Mentally, it's not there yet. Like, you watch him play, he wants to take over and do one-on-one things that it's like, that is not the best shot. And especially when you have a guy like Khan who is so efficient, you need to use him more. Like, if it was me as the Duke coach, when we come into late game situations, Khan would be the guy that I'd be giving the ball to, because I expect him to make the right decision. Flag is too much of a kind of a shooting star right now at this point. Like, doesn't fully understand the mental side isn't where the physical tools are. Yeah,
but to your point, those teams are really good. UConn would beat us pretty easily. Duke would too.
It's because we can't match up from an athletic talent standpoint.
No, I do think top 15-ish though, which means you're talking about a potential 2, 3, 4 seed if you're in that range. I think that is the ceiling for this team.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think this efficiency is going to hold is the shots that they're getting are shots within the offense. They're shots that are replicatable, and they're shots that are really good looks.
We're not shooting off the charts. Like, these are consistently good looks that they're getting against everybody. Yeah.
And they're good looks for the players that are taking them. Like, these are really good looks that they're continuing to find. And I think because of that efficiency is going to hold. We're going to pause basketball there. We have one more thing, because I did a live show earlier, but I was just banging it out. Ryan Arnold does shift gears. So not to change the subject or be negative, but I feel like I've heard this 4-star quarterback excitement before. Mertz, Cohen, Mordecai, Mabry, Locke, TBD, Evers, I could throw in there. He didn't list Evers. All players, to some degree or other, we've been excited about Justin. Why should we be more or less excited about Carter Smith committing?
Well, I don't think you can say anything about Mabry yet. Like, he's a baby deal.
Agree.
Like, I don't worry about him at this point in time whatsoever. If 2 years, if Mabry isn't doing anything, then you can start talking about it being a problem. Carter Smith, it's not impossible for me to say that Wisconsin has never gotten a QB with this many physical tools. Russell Wilson is probably the only guy that's roughly in his ballpark in terms of like all around physical tools. We don't get guys with this mobility. DJ Gillens was the closest thing. He couldn't throw the ball remotely as well as Carter Smith does. And I would say that from a mental standpoint, Carter's light years ahead of where where he was. The reality of this is this is a quarterback that, because of the physical tools that he has with his mobility, can make for some easier plays. Like, you talk about Locke and whatever all you want. He's a guy who can get outside the pocket and pressure a defense and create passing angles that Mabry can to an extent. Mabry's not as fast as what Carter Smith is. Carter Smith is the guy that in the RPO game, like, if you actually want him to pull it and take it, he absolutely can take off and he can get you 30 yards. Like, he's a guy who probably runs a 4.6. He's legitimately fast at quarterback.
Yeah. Dominic says JJ McCarthy with a bigger arm. I don't know if he has a better arm than McCarthy, actually, but
McCarthy was a 5-star quarterback. Like, we need to cool it on that a little bit. There's gonna be some growth that needs to happen, but I also will say this. I love how much of a gamer Carter Smith is. He is absolutely a guy that will – you talk about a quarterback that will go out there and get himself killed if it gets him in the end zone to win a game. He will go out there and he will get lit up and take that hit to win the game. Like, he is a guy who's just flat out a gritty winner type quarterback, but he's also supremely physical talent. Like, he's
comments I want to throw in here.
Guy.
He's 164th in the composite, 15th composite quarterback in the country. Like, this is an elite blue chip guy. Two comments I want to throw in here really quick. This one, I believe I agree with completely. Will Hanna, who's a great friend of the show. You stack all the 4 stars you can get. This is a point I made too. Someone made a comment of, well, you got excited about this guy and that guy too. I'm like, yeah, because that's recruiting. You get excited about athletic kids, but you also continue to add more talent, knowing that not all of them pan out. That's the point of recruiting. You got to keep stacking talent, period, because not all of them are going to pan out.
Jason Noun, Carter Smith's playing style is similar to Bo Nix. Bo Nix is a little bit, because he was so efficient at Oregon, I find myself being afraid to put there. Dugan from TCU is the guy who I kind of compare him to. Like, just a guy who's kind of a brute who is not afraid to be physical. Yeah, that's exactly who JB just put it on there too. Carter Smith, comp Max Dugan. I don't know if the arm is totally a pro arm, but he's a guy who he will not be a problem as a passer in the college game. The question will be is once he gets, can he get to an NFL type quarterback arm? Because I don't know if he can make those types of throws. If you watch his highlight, he had a throw that he broke out of the pocket and came down the sideline and threw a dart to a guy who had toe tapped on the sideline. That I was like, we don't have another quarterback on our roster that can make that play. Like, there's nobody that we have that can make that throw.
Happened for 10 years.
Yeah. That the last guy that we had he's playing for the Steelers right now at quarterback. That's the last guy that was in that ballpark.
I like this comp too a little bit, just especially when you talk about intangibles and toughness and winners that have mobility. Alien Space, Carter Smith, some McSorley too. He's that type of quarterback.
He's a bigger kid than McSorley, and I think the arm is better. That doesn't meaning
I think they're similar.
Meaning strength.
Yeah, maybe.
He really didn't have a cannon for he had a pop gun arm, but he was very adept at getting it out there to guys. I think that when you talk about being able to thread the needle in tight spaces, I think that I would give the edge to. I mean, this is a kid that throws 90+ on the baseball field. The arm is there. He may have some work he needs to do to clean up the mechanics in terms of getting a little bit more power through the back leg at the college level, but he absolutely has an arm.
I think we'll wrap it there, guys. I'll usually try to keep these around 30, but always good to talk some recruiting with Justin when we get him on. So we definitely wanted to hit on Carter Smith. And big picture, Badgers 7-0. Badgers are 7-0, and thank goodness, because we needed a bit of a chaser after that football game yesterday. Justin, thank you for tuning in. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Or just thank you for jumping on. Sorry. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This is Locked On Badgers. Go check out Locked On Big Ten. All the Big Ten news stories on our Big Ten channel. Go check them out next on Locked On Badgers. Thank you so much.